and I'd bring friends out. I had a gun dog. Bring friends out. Would go out, hunt the birds, shoot them, have dinner, and send them home. The liver-fed rats, 24 hours later, they're still swimming strong.
Mm.
And so the research at the time thought, well, aha, you eat liver, you're going to have endurance out the wazoo. Whatever you take has got to survive the stomach. And the stomach is a very caustic environment. It's sulfuric acid, right?
Welcome to MAMWAA. I'm Gordy, your host, and this is the podcast that includes you into my most famous song lyrics.
He's a middle-aged man with an attitude, and he didn't even have one till he met you.
That's right, I'm the middle-aged man, and my attitude will chatter us through all things that I'm passionate about, from spirituality, the gym and fitness, food, travelling, and music or movies. Quick disclaimer, this list is not exhaustive. So you can get on or you can get off and join us for the episodes that you like the sounds of. Dip in or dip out, as long as you keep dipping. Either way, we've got something to say and we're going in 3, 2, 1 day we wake up to a brain fog that never quite goes away. Your brain and gut are the ultimate dynamic duo, and in this episode we aim to help you start your journey to feeling fantastic. Whether your digestion is all over the place or you feel like your brain isn't working at maximum, our guest today isn't running on empty, and we have got the right person to help us get our gut and our brain back in sync. Dave Brethauer, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gordy. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. Welcome to the show, MAMWAA. So I'll tell you what, let's just get started. Tell us a bit about you and your background, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so you want to talk about gut health, brain gut health. My story starts when I was 4, and I'll come back to this. We'll come full circle as I tell it. But at the age of 4, I had a pretty idyllic life, born in a poor family in southwestern Kansas here in the U.S. And the first 4 years, as best I remember, was pretty idyllic. Didn't really have much stressors, played outside. Life was good. And then my a stepdad entered our life, and he lived with us for 9 years. He was abusive, alcoholic. I mean, I can go down the list of abuses. 9 years later, he left me with a less than stellar subconscious belief system that I then proceeded to live into. I spent a number of years struggling with my mindset. At the age of 10th grade, my algebra teacher put a book in front of me called Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. That started the transition, started my personal development journey, which has continued to this day. At the age of 17, I had no place to go. I wasn't going anywhere in life, and so I joined the Marine Corps. I had this desire. One of my goals after reading Psycho Cybernetics was to be a soldier, idyllic image of what combat and all that stuff was. I joined. I stood 6 foot tall. I weighed 135. I had been always the smallest kid in school, and 135 pounds, 6 foot. There's not much meat on the bones. Nobody thought I'd make it through boot camp. When I came out of boot camp 3 months later, I weighed 165. If you know anything about Marine Corps boot camp, you don't gain weight, you lose it. I was malnourished, and we discovered this 2 years later when I was a picture perfect Marine. I'd get up at lunchtime, I'd try to run 5 miles. At dinner time, I'd try to run 5 miles. Not every day, but I was active. I wanted to ace the performance test, the physical performance test. And so I worked hard at it. I was out for a run and my left leg shut down on me. Went to Bethesda Naval Hospital. The doctor, the podiatrist told me I could be home tomorrow because I was no longer medically qualified to serve. I broke down in tears. I said, no, sir, this is my career. This is what I want to do. He was impressed by that because most people would have left the service if given the chance. And so he worked with me. I have the weirdest looking shins. What they discovered was I suffered from bilateral, as you were. I suffer from anterior compartment syndromes of the tibia. The muscle on the outside of your shin, I was growing. I continued to grow, and it would shut down. Great pain. My foot wouldn't work, and then we'll start off my left leg, then became my right leg. Long story short, they did perform what's called bilateral fasciotomies. They opened my shins up like a sausage. I've got the strangest looking shins you ever want to see. Imagine a sausage on the grill. When they cook it, it pops open. That's what my shins look like. Discovered later in life that if I hadn't been if they hadn't performed the surgery, I may have potentially, it was a life-threatening situation. Anyway, I came out of the service after my 4-year enlistment. I was weighing 225, 235. So I'd almost doubled my body weight during this time. Since I could no longer run, the last 2 years, I started lifting weights. And I'd go to the gym when it was very busy during the lunch hour, officer, senior enlisted. I was a junior enlisted man. And I had there's no equipment available. So I turned to the only piece of equipment that was open. That was a squat rack. So I started squatting. And when I came out of the service, I had big thighs, big calves, and no upper body. So I was the exact opposite of what you see in the gym today. So I started off in college. I had a nutrition minor because I wanted to become a bodybuilder. That was the second goal I had. And I was in the nutritional program until I met the dean. This woman was so grossly overweight that she snorted when she walked. You could hear her coming down the hallway. When she first entered the classroom, I was taken back. She was so grossly overweight. She's supposed to be the head dietitian, head nutritionist, and this is what she looked like. She can't teach me how to develop a body. So I dropped the nutrition minor and I started learning by myself. Fast forward to the age of 50, I was weighing 320 pounds. I could move a small building. I was a powerlifter, strongman. I'd been on stage once as a bodybuilder, but I was the only one not on drugs, and I didn't want to do drugs. So I stopped that and bulked up. I had a 60-inch chest, a 42-inch waist, and again, was in fairly good shape, though my cardio has suffered since I can't run. But I went to the doctor at the age of 50, and I was diagnosed type 2 diabetic. And diabetes is not what you find in large muscled individuals. So it made no sense to me. I went home, I started researching. The first thing I looked at was diet. I discovered what's called the paleo diet. I embraced the paleo lifestyle. It just makes sense to eat the diet that we evolved to eat. So I changed my diet, dropped 80 pounds. I'd also herniated L5S1, which ended my lifting career. I don't lift heavy anymore. So I don't need all the bulk since I'm not pressing massive weights. Dropped 80 pounds, looked phenomenal, if I can be so bold. But I was still having problems. Went back to this thing called the internet, started researching again, and this is when I discovered the chemical rain shower that we live in. We put chemicals, massive amounts of chemicals, I'm talking millions of tons, are poured on the ground in which we raise our crops. It's poured down our throats in processed foods that we eat. We put it on our hair, we put it on our skin, we put it in our mouth, in our eyes. Chemicals are everywhere. And I decided that I was going to remove chemicals from my environment. And today I use essential oils for everything, for my cleaning, personal cleaning, my stove, my oven, whatever. Windows, it's all essential oils based, no chemicals. You step outside and that's a different story. But inside you can control what you're doing. That improved my health, but again, I still wasn't feeling perfect. Went back to this thing called the internet, started researching again, and that's when I discovered something called ACEs. And this is where I bring back when I was 4 years old. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. That's trauma that we experience between the ages of 0 and 18. It's a simple 10 yes or no questions. If you score one or more yes, you stand an elevated risk of having a late-term health crisis like heart disease, cancer, diabetes. You go down the list, right? I scored an 8. So what we discovered, and this is all because of the 9 years of my stepfather, what we discovered, I say we, my naturopath and I, is that I lived in the fight or flight response. Stress, right? We all know the fight or flight response. Something goes off, someone cuts you off on the road, your boss yells at you, your wife yells at you, your kids yell at you. That's a stressor, and that induces this massive chemical dump. So I've gone through most of my entire life living in the stress response. Now, what nobody ever talks about is that there's two stress responses: fight or flight or freeze, which is I forget, parasympathetic or sympathetic. And then the other side of it is something called rest and digest. That's where we should live. We should live in the rest and digest response, venturing into the fight or flight, because stress is actually good for us. It builds our immune system, it builds character, etc. But we should not live in fight or flight. And that's where, because of all the stressors we face on a daily basis, that's in fact where we do live. I've learned to move out of stress and into rest and digest, which has created a completely new world for me. So that, in a nutshell, and I have a tendency to talk a little bit too much sometimes, but that's my story. That's how I discovered gut health was diet. The trifecta. You change your diet, you improve you improve your health.
Mm-hmm.
Remove chemicals from your system, from your environment, you improve your health. Chemicals are all endocrine or hormone disruptors, and those are all you don't want your hormones disrupted. I got to wonder today, in this nation, I'm guessing around the world, we're birthing kids into this world with upwards of 300 chemicals already in their system. So we're giving our kids, our newborn children, not a really great start because chemicals, again, are all hormone disruptors. And could that be why the transgender, which seems to be a huge issue, at least in the US, why that is so prominent is because kids are so, I'm going to say, coked up on chemicals that we just keep adding more to the mix. In the 60s, studies were done where they took a frog, put it inside a chemical mixture, and the frog would change sex, male to female, and then change back to male. So could this be the possibility why we're having such issues? Kids who are younger and younger are unhealthy, are having mental issues, acting out at a younger age. I believe, yeah, why not? Again, our farming practices. I was a farmer during this period of time, learned a lot about the food we eat, how to raise the food. I was raising beef, pork, and chicken in what's called a smart pasture operation, where they lived in a natural environment. They ate their natural foods. And I wasn't going to raise them that way because I'm going to follow the farmer down the road, doing the new way, if you will. And I discovered after my journey that I don't want to eat that kind of meat. I don't want to eat meat that's basically poison. It's unhealthy. The animals are unhealthy because of what happens to them in the confined animal feed operations, which is massive here in the U.S. I'm guessing you probably have the same kind of setup in the European Union. So that's in a nutshell. And of course, stress is huge. And we're just becoming aware of it.
Let's just break this down. You mentioned a book that you had when you went to school, and you put a book in front of you. Tell me again what that book was.
So Maxwell Maltz, he was it's called Psycho Cybernetics.
Okay, and what's that about?
It's considered the forefather of personal development.
Okay.
It's a fascinating read. He was a plastic surgeon. He would operate on people, change their faces, and nothing would happen. Their lives didn't change. Other people, he would make a minor change. You couldn't even recognize it, tweak the nose or whatever, and they had a massive life change. And so he started looking at it. It's all about the subconscious.
Okay.
And the subconscious is formed between the years 0 to 7. All the stuff we come out, what's the first word kids hear? No, right?
Or stop.
Which tamps them down.
Don't.
Yep. Yeah. And then they're told, don't be stupid, right? They're told things. They get up in front of the classroom. Kids laugh at them because they fart or something, and then I'm not a good speaker. And then they live into that as their future. That was me. I was a worthless POS. That was what my stepdad told me. And as an adult, I was a kid. The adult, he knows, right? He must know who I am. And so I spent way too much time dealing with the fact that I felt that I was a worthless POS. Which I'm not.
No, of course. So as a teenager, were you a teenager when you were given this book? Yeah. So as a teenager, how did that start to shift your mindset?
I came out of high school with 3 goals. The first goal was to be a soldier. I joined the Marine Corps. My 17th birthday, I brought the recruiter home to my mom. In the U.S., you have to be 18 to sign the papers. I had just turned. It was my birthday, my 17th birthday. I walked in with the recruiter at my house. My mom was at the kitchen table. Put the contract in front of her. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Yes, ma'am. This is what I want to do. So I went off and lived that dream. And I was a poster board Marine until the wheels came off. And then I just did my job for the next 2 years until I was excused. Honorable discharge. not a medical. And that was my first major goal. I got out of the service in 82. I got out of service in 79. In 82, I appeared. My second goal was to be a bodybuilder. I appeared on the Mr. Ann Arbor stage, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was 7 guys, 5 women. I was the only one, male and female, who were not on steroids. I was also the biggest guy on stage, but I didn't have a tan. And if you know anything about lights and white, you'll wash out. Even though I was, again, the biggest guy on stage, you couldn't see. And my coach was angry because I didn't bother to get out and tan myself. This is before the spray tans and stuff.
Yeah.
You had to do it the old-fashioned way. And so, but I didn't want to compete as a steroid monster, because I feel that's cheating, right? I didn't want to enter contests where I'm competing against guys on drugs. And so I put that aside. He suggested I try powerlifting, and that's where I started lifting, overtrained for a number of years, and then again put on almost triple my body weight from the time I was 17 till the time I was 15.
That's great. So as self-development goes, it gave you some goals to start to move forward with after going through that childhood trauma. Now, just something you just said there, like it works the other way as well. Like there's some parents who are constantly saying, "Oh, you're amazing, you're great, you're fantastic," when they're not. And that goes the other way, because I did a lot of work on growth mindset research. And the whole thing about this side of it's a trauma in itself, because young people get led to believe they are the be all and end all of everything. And then when they leave education to go into work and their boss says, "You're terrible at that, you can't do that," they have no idea what to do about it, you know? So that kind of has that adverse effect, a complete flip of the coin. And this is, I think, where joining the Marines was probably really great for you, because it taught you resilience and dedication and like, what's that other D that I'm trying to think of here out the top of my head? Discipline. Yes. Yep. And like when you're one side of that childhood trauma, regardless of which side it is, none of those things are being taught. It's completely away from all of that. So self-development got you started. What were the main habits that at that time were kind of stopping you from being you were nutritionally challenged because you couldn't put weight on? Do you think that was down to the stress response, or was that something completely different, do you think?
I grew up in a poor family. We didn't have food because my mom, bless her, there was 4 kids in the house. She tried to, we were on welfare. In the U.S., you get boxes every first of each month, end of each month, I forget. And it was all carbs, sugar, powdered milk, powdered eggs, rice, canned meat. If you've ever eaten Spam, you guys have Spam?
Yeah.
That's delicacy. That's a delicacy compared to the meat that we'd get in this big can, like a coffee can, open it up, pour it out. Basically, it was nasty. That's what I consumed. And we never had enough of it. I remember having dinner, a can of corn. That's all I could eat. That's all was in the cupboards. My mom, later in life in high school, she was making $12,000 a year. And when I went off to be a consultant, I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 8 years after college. And then I went off as an independent consultant. And I remember my first check was $12,000 for a month. And oh my God, how I could barely support myself, let alone a family of 4 on that money. That's what she made for a year. So it was a tough start. And again, I lived into being a worthless POS. I was horrible to everybody because I didn't believe in myself, and yet I did, right? And then when I went off and joined the Marine Corps, I was again post-award Marine. I excelled. I was meritoriously promoted up the ranks until the wheels came off, and then all that stopped because they realized I wasn't going to continue on, and so they didn't bother to bring me along, if you will, which I understand. But I'm thankful that they gave me the additional 2 years, because today, I started lifting when I was 19. I ran 17 to 19. I ran. Age of 19 is when I had my surgery, and I've lifted ever since. I've been active ever since. And if it hadn't been the Marine Corps, I mean, I know people, they start off and they run for, they want to train for some kind of race or whatever, and they get to a certain point and fail. Very few people accomplish, that what they set out to accomplish. My biggest problem has been I have a philosophy in my life where I aim for the moon. It's better to aim for the moon, hit the lamppost, than to aim for the lamppost, hit your foot, right? My problem is I should aim for the stars and hit the moon, because I've hit the moon. Well, I hit the lamppost often. Rarely have I hit the moon. And I needed to expand and now I'm 67 years of age. Again, this is a 63 year journey that I've been on. I'm not what I used to be, but I'm not where I want to be either. And I believe it's a journey, not a destination. But so you want to talk about gut health, right?
Yeah. So you're right though. Like everything is a destination or a journey. And having a goal in the first place, it's funny you say that, because I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Having a goal in the first place gets you to a destination. And it gets you somewhere you never would have been having not had that goal in the first place. Regardless of where
Right.
it gets you somewhere. So having the goals are kind of one of the main keys. But if we go to when you finished with the Marines then, and you were talking about getting into powerlifting, bodybuilding, and you noticed a lot of people on steroids, and was it supplements as well? Was there any small changes you made at that point?
Oh, the usual doctrine, right? You need to eat more protein.
Yeah.
And so you start drinking protein shakes. I mean, the joke in Hollywood, when you see these guys who are all ripped, The Rock and everybody, and they joke about it, it's a lot of chicken and broccoli. Yeah, and a needle in your ass, and that'll work. I mean, that'll work. It'll work phenomenally. It's just something I never wanted to do. But you take, I mean, I used to take, there was a study that I read about liver, and how they had taken 2 sets of rats in the lab. One set they fed rat chow, the other set they fed liver to, and they tossed them both into containers of water. They had to swim. The rat chow group they drowned within a fairly short period of time. They ran out of steam, they couldn't climb out, and so their bodies gave up and they drowned. The liver fed rats, 24 hours later, they're still swimming strong. And so the research at the time thought, well, aha, you eat liver, you're going to have endurance out the wazoo. This is back in the 50s and 60s. So everybody, all the athletes, right, started eating lots of liver. So I would take these massive horse pills that were desiccated liver. I'd ingest 50 of them, right? Because hey, if I want to have energy, I want to have endurance, etc. Which doesn't really work that way. But eating liver, eating organ meat, which is really the most nutritious part of the animal that we can eat, we don't do that anymore. You guys probably do a better job of it than we do. I grew up eating liver and heart and tongue. Never was a big fan of tongue, but liver and heart, never was a big fan of the heart. But liver, used to eat that a lot. Today, that you don't see that. I don't buy it and eat it. I used to have a secret recipe. I can't tell you or I have to kill you. From when I was farming, that included organ meat into the mix. But today we don't eat that stuff.
Liver was quite a big meat. It's not even a meat. It was a big organ that we used to eat in Scotland as a kid.
Yeah.
Like it was just everything stew in Scotland. So liver stew, liver pate, like just liver or rabbit, just whatever the butchers had. That's what we were eating.
Yeah, the kicker though, in the 70s, our farming practices in the U.S. changed, and what the liver is the filter of the body, and so all toxins pass through the liver, and so the liver becomes a toxic piece of meat. And so if you eat a confined animal feed operation liver, you're going to get a lot of toxins versus eating a grass-finished beef or a pastured pork. You eat their liver, there's no toxins other than what's in the natural environment. So you be aware of what you're eating, I guess, is the story there. But yeah, so what are the supplements I take? Well, I still take a multivitamin, multimineral. My pea is probably expensive, right? Because you pee a lot of it out. But I'm of the belief that we're a chemical plant.
Yeah.
And I had a operations management course in college where something called the simplex method. It's a mathematical model. You have so many, you have so much raw material of X, Y, and Z, and you want to create widgets 1, 2, 3. And so you run this everything through the simplex method, and it puts out how many widgets of A you can build, B you can build, C you can build. So that's the way the body works. Is we have or don't have everything we need. The body's great at manufacturing certain things, but some things it can't manufacture, like proteins. And the body, everything the body does is all based off proteins. It's amazing if you dive into the cellular, what happens at the cellular level in the body. It's all about proteins.
Yeah.
If you're not ingesting the amount of proteins you need, then the body's going to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? So I always play safe. I take a heart kind of tablet that is designed to impact the heart in a positive way. Vitamin C, you can't go wrong with vitamin C, though, again, expensive P. B complex, because men need, especially as you age, B complex is something that you need more of. And there's not, it's a handful of stuff I take. Some probiotics, prebiotics, phytobiotics for my gut health. That's, in a nutshell, I think about it.
Yeah.
But it's not like I used to take, every single vitamin, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? I have a pill for each one of them. That was overkill.
Yeah.
Multivitamin, multi-mineral complex, all you really need.
Yeah.
I've
recently stopped that because I did have one for each, and then I was like, just get a multi, get a good multivitamin with vitamin C and iron separate, then I'm good to go, really. I don't need to. Because going back to what you said about chemicals, they are chemicals in themselves. They're all produced to get a vitamin into your body. They're not natural vitamins.
Most vitamins you take are synthetic. You're correct. You have to pay up to get natural stuff.
Yeah.
And again, expensive P, right?
Yeah.
Is what you end up with.
Yeah.
But I've always been a believer. I'd rather have enough than not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And D3 is really a real key vitamin that you need to. Again, most people, D3 is a predictor of health issues. If you have low D3 levels, you probably have a oncoming, if not already there, health issue that's going to rise up and smack you in the head. And it goes back to Hippocrates, who's the father of modern medicine. He lived 500 BC, thereabouts. That's been 2,500 years. He was the guy who said, all disease starts in the gut. And now, last 20 years, we've decided to wake up and listen to what this guy said 25 years ago. Now all the research in the microbiome, and there's multiple microbiomes. There's the gut biome, there's the mouth biome, there's the eye biome, the liver's got a biome. There's all these different biomes. Mm-hmm. And so you want to heal your gut, but that's really just the start. And then the other thing he said, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. Eat right. And again, in the U.S., we pump millions of tons of chemicals, both to grow the food, to kill the weeds, Roundup, glyphosate, and then they also spray Roundup on crops to harvest them. Something most people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
It brings them to market faster. So you're eating chemicals. Which does not do the body good.
No. You mentioned earlier about farming. You raised pigs, didn't you? And I seen a picture on your website of Albert. Tell me about when you raised pigs. Yeah,
my herd board. Yeah, that was we had bought a 75-acre parcel, and we built a home on it. And the idea was initially, I like to upland game hunt, pheasant, quail, shoot them, eat them, type of thing. So we had this property. I started raising game birds, and I'd bring friends out. I had a gun dog. Bring friends out. We'd go out, hunt the birds, shoot them, have dinner, and send them home. And then when the subprime mess hit, what are we going to do? And so I stumbled upon a white paper that was written by a guy at the University of Wisconsin-Madison about yellow perch production in the U.S. There's a fish fry, a Friday night fish fry
Okay.
that occurs. And you basically draw a circle 50 miles out around all the Great Lakes in Canada and the U.S., and that's the market for fish fries on Friday night. Yellow perch is considered a delicacy in the old fish fry days. That's what you want to eat. You want to eat walleye or perch. Today it's haddock, it's cod, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the sea. Back then it was all fresh fish, freshwater fish. Well, yellow perch production has dropped. There was, I think this is again a number of years old, but 15 million pounds is produced. 15 million tons is produced. They have an 100 million ton demand. So 100 minus 15, that leaves 85 million tons of unmet demand. I saw an opportunity, so I started something called an aquaponics venture.
Okay.
It's where you raise. I had 2,400 gallons of water in a barn. I had yellow perch in the water, and then I'd pump the water into a grow bed and grow vegetables. And I ran that for a year, and then we turned it off because of what we discovered. We started off feeding the fish, the commercial feed that salmon, trout fisheries feed, yellow perch fisheries feed, which was majority, like 80% was fish meal, 15-20% was grain. Fast forward a year later, fish meal had gone through the roof price-wise because we're overfishing. And so what's happened is now that you've got, you can't afford fish meal, that goes into cat food. It was 100% grain. And when's the last time you saw salmon or trout swim by it chewing on a corn cob? Right? Not a natural diet.
Yeah.
Which means it raises an unnatural piece of protein. We wouldn't eat it. We couldn't sell it to anybody else. So I shut that operation down and said, why don't we just raise, get a steer, and raise our own beef, get a hog, raise our hog and stuff. So we decided to up the ante a little bit. I had a herd of about 12 cattle and a breeding trio, a boar and 2 sows. I started a small sheep operation, but got rid of them. They're the dumbest animal in the farm. They were a problem. Number one, they're stocky and they like to butt you, and they'll break legs.
Yeah.
The cattle had horns, so you had to be careful of them, but they weren't as aggressive. The sheep sometimes would just bowl into you. I didn't have a ram. A ram would be even worse. So we got rid of the sheep, and then I was raising chickens, and I raised them naturally. If you'd had the chance to have my bacon, I was raising what's called a heritage hog. The idea was to generate a new lineage, a new line for what's called a mulefoot. Very interesting hog, MULEFOT, mulefoot hog.
Okay.
There's not very many left in the U.S. Barn fire a number of years ago wiped out a herd, and that took a lot of the animals off the registry. I thought I bought registered animals. Turns out they were inbred, so not on the registry. But anyway, Albert. So what people don't realize about hogs is they are the cleanest animal in the barn. They will not poop everywhere, like a horse, like a cow, like a dog, like a cat.
Okay.
Right? Well, a cat will go in a box. Like a sheep, like a chicken, and they poop everywhere. A hog, if it's indoors, will find a corner, and that's where it will defecate and urinate, and it will not anyplace else, just in that one corner. Cleanest animal, and smarter than my herd boar. I mean, when I ended up having to process him, I had to shut the farm down and move back into the city. He was 7 feet long, thereabouts, about 2 feet wide, about 4 feet high at the shoulder, and about 750 pounds. And he was like a freaking giant dog. I enjoyed Albert a lot. I could lay on him, and he'd lay on the ground, and I could climb on top of him, and he would just lay there. He was all the hogs were the two, Betty and Berta, were interesting animals, but Albert and I, for whatever reason, had a kindred spirit. And of course, he had these massive freaking tusks at the end, which people wanted to come in the paddock and play with him and stuff. I couldn't let him do that, because if he took a swipe, just raise his head, he could cut you wide open with his tusks. So, but yeah, that was something I would love to get back to, is raising a hog again.
Yeah.
Hogs.
Oh, good stuff. I had So my old family, my auntie and uncle had a farm when I was growing up, and we used to help them on the farm and stuff. So that was yeah. I love that. Excellent. So we've spoke a lot about then natural food, and obviously this is part of the gut health and getting that gut brain connection, and a lot of that is the bit in between to keep your immune system running efficiently. Um, what is your before we get into the gut side of it? What's your kind of? I know you mentioned vitamins, but is there anything else to boost your immune system and kind of get everything going a bit more actively?
Yeah, I would go back to it's a trifecta. In my experience, my life is my diet, it's the chemicals I surround myself with, and finally stress.
Hmm.
I think the biggest immune boost you can give yourself is to move out of rest or move out of the stress response, fight or flight, and into rest and digest. There's a great book by Sapolsky titled "Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers," if I remember the title. Uh, he's considered the forefather of stress
Okay.
studies, etc. And he basically uses the analogy of a zebra in Africa. The zebra is focused on the blade of grass. He's alert. He knows that there's danger out there, but he's not consumed by that. Right? He's focused on the blade of grass. A stressor, a lion, rises up and runs at him. He's going to either stand and fight, most likely going to get eaten, or he's going to run away. Right? So once he runs away and the stressor is no longer there, he goes through something called trauma release. That's where the body releases the core dump of hormones, the cortisol, the epinephrine, the dopamine, this massive core dump of hormones that get injected in the body, all because you need to go from 0 to 100 like that. And the only way to do that, chemical signatures from the hormones, right? Then you got to cleanse the body. Once you cleanse the body, the zebra's back focused on the blade of grass. What just happened, he's not consumed with. He doesn't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
He's carefree, right? I want to eat, eat, procreate, and poop. That's what all of us, all animals on the earth.
He deals with it and just drops it. It's dealt with.
Yeah,
Done.
yeah. He doesn't sleep and worry about it. He doesn't get up worrying about it. He doesn't go. It's just one of the things that comes up. We'll deal with it, and when it's done with, moves on.
Yeah.
Compared to yourself or anybody else listening, right? You get up and you're stressed because you had a bad night's sleep. The wife, the husband, the kids are angry at you before school. You didn't eat right, right? You drank too much coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the stressor on the body. Mental and physical stressors. You drive to work, somebody cuts you off. You blow up, right? You get to work, the boss is angry. So stressor upon stressor upon stressor. We never step back. We take our weeks long vacation, and that's just as you're ending the vacation, you're starting to feel relaxed, right? And then you're right back in the mix.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now a lot of stress can deal with it or create that whole swelling, bloating, like your whole digestive system is below optimum just without even trying, because
Yep.
your body's just in this tension that you don't know what to do with. What about?
Yeah, you can eat right and still be stressed, right? You can remove chemicals from your environment, but if you're not eating properly and you're not de-stressing, you're going to have issues. You can de-stress, but if you're swimming in chemicals and you're not eating right, then you're still going to have problems.
Yeah.
So again, I believe it's a trifecta.
And I found out a couple of weeks ago, because I was quite ill, and it wasn't like a cold or a flu, because I don't really get that ill, touch cherry wood, but I became like mentally drained, and it just felt like my brain wasn't, this brain fog that I mentioned at the start, and it kind of
Sure.
it felt like that, and it didn't get better and it didn't get worse. I just couldn't focus, I couldn't balance, like I wasn't my brain wasn't working properly, and I started doing a bit of research, and it turns out that you can have too many probiotics and give yourself a bacterial infection in the gut, and I didn't know that. So luckily enough, I found some, I wouldn't suggest this. I'm not a medical professional, but I found some antibiotics that I hadn't used. So I had like 3 days of those, and I was fine again. But it's just I didn't know you could have too many good like biotics.
Yeah, if you look at the back of a probiotic bottle and you look and see what the bacteria strain is, and I'm going to butcher the name, lactobacillus is 99.9% of the time what you're taking. There's thousands of bacteria in our guts. Why do we think we can take only one and that'll solve the problem?
Yeah.
So what you really need to take is a mix of what's called prebiotics, probiotics, and phytobiotics. That's all. Again, there's various strains out there. Some have been researched, some have not. That will maximize the efficiency of what you're taking, because whatever you take has got to survive the stomach, and the stomach is a very caustic environment. It's sulfuric acid, right? It's going to eat you. You put your finger in there. That's why if you have acid reflux, if you ever experienced that, bile in your throat, if you have multiple episodes of that, it will scar your esophagus, and then you have problems swallowing. That can lead to more medical issues. So if you have acid reflux, you're eating the wrong diet. Most likely, all the stuff nobody wants to hear about. You're probably gluten insensitive, lactose intolerant, and you're just again eating all the wrong foods, which creates an imbalance in the gut, and then up it comes. But yeah, you're the first person I've ever heard talk to who's had a probiotic overgrowth. It's interesting, but it makes sense, right?
I didn't know you could get that until it happened, and I was like, "This is weird," because normally you get a cold, you get a flu, you get like an illness, but you don't need or a bacterial infection, but you don't create it yourself. I just thought it was really bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you mentioned chemical rain showers, and just based on what you were just saying, like how do we simplify a chemical rain shower for the listeners?
So I became a plug here. I became a Young Living. There's two major companies that I'm aware of: Young Living and doTERRA. They sell both the essential oils themselves, and they're not off the store, so you make sure they're therapeutic grade. It's all oil, no addition, no additives. Stuff you buy off the store shelves may have additives.
Yeah.
Don't buy stuff from China. There's massive amounts of books out there on what these oils do for you. You mentioned antibiotics. There's a product called Thieves that is a naturally the mix of oils are all shown to be have antibiotic properties. So when I start to feel a little under the weather, I'll dose myself with Thieves. I load up vegetarian capsules, bunch of drops in there, and swallow them every hour. And next day I feel fine. My lavender oil, they consider that the nature's medical kit. If you got a boo boo, put lavender. If you have acne, put a drop of lavender oil on. And there's a long list of things. My underarm deodorant is all essential oil based. My soaps are all essential oil based. My hair shampoo is essential oil based. My clothes, what I wash my clothes in, is essential oils. What I clean my kitchen with, my floors, etc., is all essential oils. My Windex, my variety of Windex is basically vinegar with lemon oil. And man, talk about streak free and cleans the snot out of however dirty. I'll go up against Windex any day, and I'm quicker and it's streak free. There's a whole list of things. I have Febreze. You guys have Febreze?
Yeah.
So it eliminates sprays, or you spray it, eliminates smells. I have my essential oil based off of something called purification and hazel and water. Witch hazel, and water, and a number of drops of this purification oil, and it'll take any scent out of the room. And again, you're not breathing in chemicals. So and find somebody, doTERRA, Young Living, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to sponsor you in some form or fashion, right? But that's what I would do is push yourself into the essential oil world. And then there's other companies, but again, if you read the backside, and even Young Living, they have chemicals in their stuff. So I don't know if you can ever get chemical free, because corn, segue here, corn. Look at how engineered corn is. Corn is everywhere, and corn is another food that causes gut reactions, skin reactions. So that's something else you want to take a look at, is what exactly are you eating and drinking and putting on your skin that has corn in it and or chemicals. So you really can't. I don't know of a environment that is totally chemical free.
Yeah.
But you do the best you can to remove as many as you can. And I everything I've done, I feel like I'm better for. I believe I extended my life when I went paleo. I'm much better, but with a chemical free environment. And I know for damn sure that my stress reduction efforts, I really believe it extended my life.
Yeah.
So
Well, you've obviously got like a much wider circle in regards to this, like especially with your podcast, Brain Gut Connect, isn't it? So what are some of the most mind-blowing conversations from people you've had on your podcast about this Brain Gut Connect?
yeah, I recently, so the podcast story, I started it 5, 6, 7 years ago when I became a distributor of something called Amare,
Okay.
AMARE. They consider themselves the mental wellness company. They have a whole bunch of gut health products. So my upline and I, let's sell this. Let's create a podcast. So we did 5, and then set it aside for a variety of reasons. And I didn't touch it until about 8 months ago when I started publishing a newsletter. And I joined a mastermind. So my podcast is my side gig. I run a small business marketing agency, but that's not my passion, right? So I should live into my passion. And so this mastermind group, you start a newsletter and you grow from there. And so I threw a bunch of stuff against the wall, a bunch of ideas. Brain gut health. Started the newsletter. So I got this podcast. Let me check it out. So I went to Spotify, so it's on, and in the time frame, I had 5 episodes. I had garnered over 3,000 listens with no activity. I hadn't done diddly squat. So I figured in 5 years, I got 3,000 listens. What would have happened if I'd actually been doing something with it?
Yeah.
And so I started the podcast and the newsletter. I've only got, I think, 16 episodes up right now in total. And almost all of them have been health coaches that focus on some aspect of gut health. Dementia, Alzheimer's, that's reversible. People don't know that. They think mom and dad are going down the slippery slope, right? Where's mom? They walked out of the house. That they can be brought back. How do you do that? You change their diet. You go back to a clean diet, i.e., the paleo diet, and you go down the list of all these different medical issues and what happens when you change their diet. SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Most likely that's because the child was born. Cesarean birth means the microbiome, the outer microbiome, is not gifted to the child because they come out mom's stomach, right? They come out through the stomach wall, versus down the birth canal. Birth canal is where the kid gets slimed and is given their microbiome for the outside microbiome. Mom's health. If mom's not healthy, then most likely the microbiome she's given her child, if she breastfeeds them, is inadequate. And it can take multiple years for that child to bring themselves up to speed, if you will, if mom had been healthy and fed them off the nipple, off the breast for a number of years. If the child is born and goes on to formula, there's no microbiome in the formula. Oh, sure, there's probiotics and stuff like that, but it's not mom's. It's not a healthy start. So we're starting off again with kids who were born with chemicals in their system. we don't give them a good start. And so that could be potentially why people have, again, late term health issues, because stress occurs in multiple ways, not just mental, physical, or sexual, right? Sexual abuse. You can, words do hurt, right? Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words will never hurt me. It's BS. Words are very damaging. So we live in this world that is far from perfect, but there's a lot of things that we can do that will make our world more perfect, if there's such a thing. And it starts at birth. Actually, it starts pre-birth, but that's another story.
But then saying that, like for some of the listeners who might have kind of clocked into this for the first time are like, how can gut health make a difference to this or that, or like, and they don't know where to start in all of this. There's a lot to take in, isn't there? So what are three things, just three things that they could do from now to make a start on cleansing this connection?
Yeah. So three things. So first off is read up on what makes the proper diet, right? Processed foods are not it. We're not designed to eat grains. Milled flour, that's horrible for us. Vegetable oils are horrible for us. Again, there's a long list of foods that you want to remove based on the paleo. Keto is very similar, but it requires you monitoring your macros. I'm a big believer. Again, let's go back to the way man evolved to eat. So you eat the way our forefathers, our Homo sapien, 30, 40,000 years ago, what they consumed. It's not a carnivore diet. They would look at there's 75 indigenous populations of hunter-gatherers, maybe less now, in the world today. And you look at what they eat, the diet they've always eaten, right? Until modern man comes along. And look at what happens when in just one generation, they come off the reservation, so to speak, and they move into the Western diet. What happens to their health? Goes to hell in a handbasket. Just one generation. So diet is huge. And that if you clean your gut up, and then other things will change. But if you're still swimming in the chemical rain shower, that's going to impact your hormones as a stressor on your body. That's going to be another issue you'll have to deal with. Or you could choose not to, and maybe not live into your 80s or 90s. We should live a lot longer than modern man does. But we don't. Why? Because we don't eat the right foods. And everything, I mean, you can go down a number of rabbit holes and verify everything I'm talking about here. But eat right, clean your environment up from chemicals, and then finally reduce the stress that you live in. Learn to move from the fight or flight response into rest and digest on a daily basis. If that means you have to go into a closet somewhere and scream your head off for 3 minutes to let it all out, right? And then take 3 minutes for a cigarette break or whatever to calm your nerves, bring yourself out of the stress response. I don't recommend smoking cigarettes, but whatever it takes to bring you out of the stress response. And there's something called the vagus nerve. So we have three brains. I'm going to deviate here a minute. The brain between our ears, a mass of neurons in our heart and our gut, right? And so there's something, and then what's called the vagus nerve, which is the communication channel between the three. You can do something as simple as sit down, turn your head to your left, take a deep breath, and then come back, and you just reset your vagus nerve. You just entered the rest and digest mode. Now, how long is it going to last? Till the next stressor, right?
Yeah.
But if you do that constantly throughout the day, you might see a change in how you react to the stressors in your life. And then meditation. I believe in guided meditation. There's a lot of YouTube has got a crap ton of videos, audios you can listen to. I listen to stuff at night, every night. And I sleep.
Is that your de-stressor then? Is the meditation side of wellness?
My de-stressor is lifted.
Okay.
Yeah. That's always been my go-to, to get out, right? I'm in the city now, so I can't go out. I used to be able to go out in my backyard and shoot, right? And if you ever shot skeet or trap, so you throw clay pigeons.
Okay.
right? These little round cylinders, you
Yeah.
throw them out and you blow them out of the sky.
I've been clay
Talk about a
pigeon
stress
shooting.
relief.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a stress
Yeah.
relief, man. That's really good. But for me, it's working out.
Yeah.
It's lifting. Uh, and then, don't overeat. Don't stress eat, which is easier said than done. I'm a stress eater. I think
Yeah, me
most
too.
people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us are. And then don't, stay away from the vices. Uh, don't do drugs. Alcohol is a drug. I used to do way too much alcohol. That's what I lived into for a number of years. Is why people tell me I don't look as old as I am, and I say that's because I pickled myself when I was younger. And I spent 15 years in the bottom of a bottle.
Yeah.
That did me no good. I'd love to have those 15 years back. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? But and then you mentioned early on about mindset, the growth mindset, huge. If you embrace four things, let's add growth mindset as number 4.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
embrace those 4 things, yeah, your life will transform. You'll feel better, you'll look better, you'll treat others better, you'll treat yourself better, um, and you'll be healthier, happier, and hopefully wealthier because of it.
Yeah. I think a
Right?
key message that we were both talking about half an hour ago now is also the fact it's a journey. Like, having the goal to do all these things is great. It's a great start. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, and going back to what you were saying, like, my history is full of addiction, but 20 years down the line, I'm not saying it'll take everyone 20 years to sort your gut, because it won't. If you start implementing changes, before you know it, you've made more changes than not any. And it's the journey. Like, just decide
Yeah,
on having the journey.
yeah. Yeah, and then realize too that we're not perfect. It's an uphill struggle. You're going to climb so far and slide back down. Hopefully don't slide all the way to the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah,
But if you do, it's no harm, no foul. Don't feel bad about it. I
yeah,
can't tell how many times I reached the top and slid back down.
yeah,
Right? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and climb. And then once you reach the pinnacle, right? Then you find a taller pinnacle to go pursue.
yeah,
Right? Keep striving forward in all ways in your life, and you'll have a happier and healthier and hopefully wealthier life by
yeah.
doing so.
And it's all part of the human experience, isn't it? Everything is part
Yeah,
of the experience.
yeah,
So on that, then, tell us what your links are. Where can everyone go and find out more about you?
yeah. So braingutconnect.com is my website, and you can subscribe to the newsletter at braingutconnect.com/subscribe, and you can find the Brain Gut Connection podcast on Spotify, on Apple. I'm now in 79 countries, and I've got myself on a crap ton of directories. So whatever your podcast directory or wherever you find your podcast, most likely you can find the Brain Gut Connection.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Well, Dave, it's been a really useful conversation and really in-depth, knowledgeable, especially for me, having been the one chatting to you. And I hope that's helped all of you guys listening as well. So I'll put all the links for Dave's places in the show notes. Please go and check them out. And thank you all for listening. Make sure that you do subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and share this episode so we can keep bringing you all the great conversations that you want from us. Keep looking after your gut, and we will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.